What's up, everybody? Hello and welcome to episode number 307 of the VK Bros with Jason and Alex VK. Coming at you on a beautiful sunny Saturday morning. How are you going this week, Al?
Dude, I've been so freaking busy this
Mm.
week. I've barely had time to think. I feel a little bit mentally drained as well. There's just been so much going on. Kind of in a good way, I guess. But yeah, Saturday, went to the gym this morning, went to the communist breakfast, had someone threaten to challenge us in a debate.
Yeah, that would be...
And where her partner went, no, you'll cry.
And it'll all be our fault and she will win. So we will not be participating in that debate.
Yeah.
You know, it has been a bit of a wild week. I should probably tell the viewers, I did get the results of all my scans and stuff like that. Bit of a health update. Foot-wise, textbook plantar fasciitis, so that's just rest, bit of rehab stuff I've been doing now. It is improving, which is good. Knee-wise, good news. All ligaments fully intact, which is what I was concerned about. I've just got a minor tear in my meniscus, a small fracture in the top of my tibia, and like a bone bruise and stuff, which again, it just means rest and a little bit of rehab stuff, and then I'll be back into it. So it honestly was the best case scenario for me because, look, the number one thing is you don't want to have ligament issues or anything that requires surgery. So none of this requires surgery, so that's a massive positive. But it's injured enough, so all of my complaining over the last month has been justified. So that's a big, that's very important for me.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about just quickly the obstruction in the process of getting information? Do you think that's worth talking about?
Yeah, look, it probably is. So I was explaining to Alex the process, and for any of you who've had injuries that require scans, you probably know what I'm talking about. So essentially the way it works is you go to the doctors first. The doctor can't really tell you anything. They then refer you to a scanning place to get these scans done. So you do need a referral if you want to get anything back on Medicare. And I think I've got like a 50% rebate or something like that. You then go to the place. Now, I won't name the place that I went to, even though they gave me great service. So it was really, really good. But they tell you to download an app. And then when you download the app, your scans get uploaded to the app as well as a report. Once I think they get like an orthopedic surgeon to look at your scans and write the report, which essentially explains in doctor speak what your problem is. Now, what I find really insidious about this stuff is it does appear that the way that the system is set up is designed to have you, the client, have as many touch points with specialists or medical professionals along the way to maximize the take from the Medicare system. Because you need to go to the doctor first and he gets to swipe the Medicare credit card and then he refers you to the place to get the scans. And then for some reason, even though I pay for the scans, they don't upload the stuff to me directly. It basically said your scans will be available on X date. So for me, it was the 17th of June. I got these scans done like a week and a half ago, but they were available at my doctor within like 3 days. The report was. So in other words, they basically say to you, you can have your scans in a week and a half, but if you want to know what's really going on, you better go and talk to your doctor about it first because we've already sent the report to him. Now, me being someone who's been through the knee surgery process before, done a whole bunch of research on it, I just want to read the thing because I can understand the majority of the information that's on there. Now, the average layperson probably cannot. So the justification is always that you want your doctor to actually be able to interpret that information for you in a way that you can understand it. However, we're also living in the age of AI. So I read through the report when I got it. Now, my phone had been ringing off the hook. I think I've already asked you about this. You've had a massive uptick recently in scam calls, haven't you?
Yeah.
So I'm constantly receiving scam calls now. So I'm just not answering any unknown number. And so I think my doctor's surgery's also been trying to get me for like a week to go back just so he can interpret these results for me. Anyway, I read through it. I understand the majority of it. There was a few things I were unsure about. I've got a mate who's a physio, so I sent the report to him for his opinion. But at the same time, I fed all that information into ChatGPT. And ChatGPT, within 3 seconds, literally asked me a couple more clarifying questions, including like where I personally feel pain and if I do different movements, what happens, etc. And not only did it give me information that was extremely accurate because A, it mirrored what I already thought, B, it mirrored what my physio mate thought as well. But it also spat out a complete rehab guide of exercises, time frames, things to do to help improve it. Like, it was instant.
So all the same stuff that your doctor told you, right?
Well, I haven't been back to the doctor.
Okay. Well, the doctor will tell you because they're
But
great for that reason.
no. The doctor won't tell you because the doctor's not a physio.
That's the joke.
Yeah, exactly. So you'll go back to the doctor.
The reason why I wanted you to bring that up is because we know this to be true, and my business partner's got 2 young kids as well. He's the one who seems to be screaming it out the loudest. We could very easily fix our medical system or make it 4 times more efficient.
Yeah.
By just, how about we pay, a quarter of the price for the phone call?
Yeah.
And so they still get to slap the ticket. They still get to make money, but they don't fuck you around by dragging you in to talk to you for 5 minutes when they can use that time to have a new patient.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I'm assuming because it's happening to you, it's happening to my mate, it's probably happening to everyone where they're making you jump through all these hoops. Let's just remove 2 or 3 of the hoops.
Yeah.
And we could 4x what we get out of our system.
Totally. Like, there should be no reason why I should have to go back to the doctor's surgery. He should be able to receive the report and give me a call and go, hey, dude, the report says this. And he should be able to charge that to Medicare or whatever.
Yeah, and that's worth him getting paid for. We're not arguing with that.
Yeah, exactly right. But look,
but even like the pressure on the roads or like the time frames, because you've got school runs and all that kind of stuff, all that life stuff, forcing you to drive out there in 2026.
Yeah, it's ludicrous.
Yeah, it's a joke like this meeting could have been an email.
Yeah.
Well, most doctor's appointments could have been a phone call.
Correct. And I can move around. What if you had a more significant injury and you can't move around? So therefore you need to get someone else to assist you to go to all these appointments. And like I said, if I would have gone back to the doctors, all they would have done is they would have read the report to me just the same way that I could read it, or my mate read it, or ChatGPT read it. And then they would say, to know what to do next, I'm going to refer you to a physiotherapist who will then run you through training, rehab, etc. And then you have to go and pay them as well next. Like, it's unfortunately...
Whoa. I thought we had a free health system, Jason.
Yeah, well, we obviously don't, because I'm having to pay 50% clip on the way through on every single one of these things. Medicare's not covered at all. What? But Albo said...
So... I think that's worth... And look, if it was a private company, they would look for efficiencies because they'd want to get more customers through.
Yep.
And I think we would all say, hey, let's get more customers through the medical system. So the problem is the incentive is not to do that. The incentive is to clip that ticket as many times as you can. And if you can clip the ticket 4 times instead of 1 time, then they're going to do that.
Yeah.
And it's much like the argument that I make about the... my ferry here, the public transport in Brisbane is 50 cents, right? Which is great. The ferry down here has a tap and go system, which they've now upgraded it so you can just use your credit card. Great. Perfect. But what's something that's really, really dumb that I could fix in a couple of lines of code, when I say I could allocate it to someone who could fix it in a couple of lines of code, is when internationals come over and they jump on the ferry and they say, I've got me, my wife, and 2 kids, and the person, and I've heard this happen, so this is real, they'll say, they all need credit cards.
Yeah.
Okay, well, my 6-year-old doesn't have a credit card. Whereas all you need to do is go, swipe passengers, plus,
Yep.
minus, and then you can handle it. And then think about, even though obviously we're probably running at a massive loss at 50 cents, you'd be running at less at a loss if you're not letting people on for free because your system's shit.
Yeah, and it's also one of those things where the 50 cents is such a low value item that I know the workers on those things don't chase people for payment. If it's too hard, they're like, look, just get on because we've got to get going. So they don't care. Yeah.
And so they should. They're not ruining people's experience. I do want to appreciate that.
Yep.
But it's not their fault.
No, it's not.
It's that system's fault that could have been fixed in 2 seconds.
Yeah, and what do we always talk about? Like, the things that do not mix is the government and technology. And this is just another very small
I would say more so government and efficiency.
Yeah, well, there's that too. There is that too. All right,
So there's a little bit of a segue there. I want to talk a little bit about just quickly, because it's not a huge deal, but
Yep.
Jim Chalmers has wound back some of the budget
Mm.
stuff, and you posted during the week, which I think was pertinent, was I had said before, and I got this wrong, but now I'm kind of right. I said early days that they weren't going to do this CGT discount thing. They were just talking about it
Mm-hmm.
so then they could present something of lower impact
Yeah.
that's still bad. And because it's better than what the original plan was, you think it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like they're kind of doing that now, but they actually presented the CGT removal of CGT discount.
Yep.
And now, because of the biggest uproar, they've picked one tiny sliver of the population that was affected by it, wound it back a little bit, and represented it like they've moved. Oh, we've listened to people.
But it's even worse than that. It's not even that they're presenting it as if they've listened to the people. They're presenting it as if they're giving the people something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
So it's like they bring in, and look, we saw the exact same thing happen when they tried to tax unrealized gains on super. It was the exact same thing, right? So they had a bill. The bill included an increase in the minimum tax paid on your super earnings, as well as a tax on unrealized gains. Throw it out there. Like, had a mate message me who listens to the show during the week, and he's like, it's kind of art of the deal, isn't it? Like, this is sort of what
Totally.
Donald Trump's book about the art of the deal is. You throw out this big, ridiculous thing, which is guaranteed to have a lot of people push back, but that was never where you thought you were going to end up anyway. But look, if you got it, you would take it.
You're laughing. Yeah.
Absolutely. But it allows you to anchor up here and then, quote unquote, compromise down to the level that you actually wanted in the first place, right? So they did that with the superannuation thing. They brought it out with the taxes on unrealized gains. Everyone freaked out about it. They came back and they said, yep, after consultation, we've removed the tax on unrealized gains. Let's move on. And then everyone also got a 15% increase in the amount of tax they pay on their super, but no one's talking about that because they think they won. They've just done the exact same thing with this. So the rollbacks are essentially for CGT on startups and small business. So it's something like 2.7 million businesses will still get their CGT discounts. But the number one thing is it still means that they've increased the capital gains tax on other investments like shares, like crypto, etc.
I actually think so. I think there's actually something else that's almost worse, which is, and I blame right-wing media for this.
Okay.
They threw people up the tree by saying that every business owner is now in business partnership with Anthony Albanese, which was funny, but the rule did not affect most small businesses under turnover of $10 million.
Yep.
Okay. And that should have been illustrated by right-wing media.
Right.
Because they weren't being truthful about it.
Yeah.
So the assumption was that everyone was affected by this, and everyone, if you went and started a little cafe or something, that if you sell the cafe, you're now going to not get the CGT discount.
Yep.
Which wasn't true. So now that's and where you've said this before, Albo's very savvy.
Yeah.
He's sort of capitalized on that, and he's pulled back. He's pulled back that number. Or when I say pull back, he's actually lifted the turnover number to allow more small businesses to be unaffected by this change. So now he's given us something, but really it's nothing. It's really a fugazi.
Yeah.
But it was it was a great response to the response, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you're right. Like, this is probably a failing of right-wing media, but at the same time too, this is just their modus operandi. And now we're talking about this thing. He's essentially taken something away and given you a little bit back and pretended, like, he's literally marketed like, I have done this for you. So he gets good guy credits out of it, which is crazy. But here's the other thing too, and I spoke about this in the group chat during the week, and because a friend of ours asked it, and I think it's a really important, relevant thing to explain to people about what actual effect this will have on the Australian share market. Because the reality is there has been no change on the CGT tax discount, the capital gains tax discount for investing in shares in the Australian market. Now, one thing I'll put to the side quickly is the fact that they have essentially brought in a minimum 30% tax on capital gains for Australian investors.
Yeah.
But if you're a foreign investor investing in Australian stock exchange shares, the withholding tax on foreign profits is only 15%. So in other words, a foreigner is paying half the amount of tax that you will pay if you experience capital gain from your shares. So that's one thing, but let's park that to the side for the moment. This will fundamentally change where investors put their money to the detriment of the little guy and to the benefit of the big corporations. And let me explain why. There are two main ways that you can make money via the share market. Way number one is to invest in something that may be a startup, like an IPO, for example, where you buy in at the very bottom, and then when that company becomes bigger and more successful, everyone starts buying in and your share value increases exponentially. So sort of like Bitcoin, right? If you bought Bitcoin at 20 grand and then it went to 120 grand, you've made $100,000 capital gain on that Bitcoin. In the old system, depending on how long you held it for, you would get a 50% discount on your capital gains tax you paid on that. Now, at the very least, you'll pay a minimum 30% of the total capital gain. So you will pay more. The other way that you can make money through the share market is by investing in established companies that pay high dividends. That is where people are going to move their money to. I literally did it myself about a month ago. So about a month ago, Commonwealth Bank shares had their largest nosedive in their history, and I bought in fairly close to the bottom. And the reason why I bought those, look, number one, I'll get a tiny bit of capital growth out of those shares, but Commonwealth Bank shares pay relatively high dividends in comparison to the rest of the market. So in other words, I'm not trying to take income from them by getting large capital growth and selling a large chunk all at the same time, which then becomes a taxable event for capital gains. I'm planning on taking a regular income from them when they pay dividends, which is a much smaller amount at different times, which means the total tax I'll pay on that is much lower than what you would pay on capital gains. So what does this mean for the Australian market? Good luck raising money via the share market for startups and small businesses.
Yeah.
All of the smart investor money that still wants to be invested in the share market is going to go to the established players and make them richer and stronger than they've ever been.
Well, I can tell you, I know some friends who are in the finance industry.
Yep.
And they're being told, just move offshore.
Yep.
And like you said, you pay 15%. It's a flat rate, 15% tax if you're an international.
Yep.
You're going to pay 30% tax if you're local. So this is for companies. It's not they're actually, companies weren't affected by this as much. But it just goes to show it is a two-tier system.
Yep.
We are the tax mules for our government. And they will do whatever they can to extract as much money out of us as they can. And to further sort of impress what Jason has just said about the problem with not having investment here, and this is the part that irks me when I talk to people about this. The startup culture is going to die. Why would you do it? New business culture is going to die when you do it. When I tell this to people, they go, "But we're not all going to be business owners."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No shit, Sherlock. But who are you going to work for?"
Yep.
Right. So they haven't thought. Like they just think, "Oh, I'm just a worker. It doesn't matter to me. So these things are good for me." There's not going to be any jobs, and I can show you here. Now, this data, although it's labeled 2026, I'm pretty sure it's 2021 data.
Right.
Okay. This is the economic complexity chart, right? Just to show on this one, we are, and this is how I know it's old because we've gone through this before. It's still got us behind Uganda at minus 0.55.
Right.
Okay, so to paint a picture, okay, so we're here, minus 0.55 to minus 2.5.
Yeah.
America, who's almost the king, right, is 1.4. Sorry. We're minus 0.55, and I think the benchmark being 2.5.
Yep.
America's 1.4.
Yep.
Germany's 1.9.
Yep.
China is 1.3. Switzerland is 2.14. Now, okay, this is really interesting. This is interesting to note, okay? Switzerland is a bit of an anomaly.
Mm-hmm.
Reason why, they have had this rule of impartiality for their entire existence, 700 years.
Yep.
They're not a member of the EU. They said, we're out. We're not doing it. They don't use the euro.
Mm-hmm.
They use the franc, okay? But they still have extremely high wages. Their people are paid very well.
Mm-hmm.
They have extreme amounts of manufacturing. And they don't necessarily have this government adage of like, subsidize this, fund that, do this, do that. They have very robust industries. And they've got, and obviously they've got massive financial sector, like banking. They've got like a lot of the big brands of really high quality things. You know, you're talking watches or precision equipment is all made in Switzerland, which is something we could do here in Australia. We've got the brains to do it here.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the space to do it here. But to show that they are 2.14, we are minus 0.55.
Yeah.
On old data, this will be worse when this updates.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at these African countries here. There's African countries, Egypt, better than us. Libya's not. Algeria is. The Congo's not. South Africa is. There are countries that, or even New Zealand. New Zealand is ahead of us.
Mm-hmm.
0.2. Now, I was talking to someone about New Zealand today because they wanted to know the ramifications of what housing prices, because they've had a big housing price drop. And he was asking if it was all like immigration based. The difference that New Zealand has that we don't have is they've got a prime minister that is a businessman who's incentivized new business startups because he understands that we need to become more productive. So I could move my business to New Zealand and get 5 years tax-free.
Did you see that they had their, like, once the budget dropped, they literally had their finance minister doing an ad for Australian entrepreneurs. If you've got an idea and you want to get it off the ground, bring it over here. We will be happy to have you. Offering all the incentives in the world to bring those startups over to them. Yes.
So this is really, really bad. And I had a comment at the communist lunch this morning where
communist and lunch just in the same like sentence doesn't normally happen. You don't not normally many lunches under communism.
Yeah. She asked me if I was going to the Pauline Hanson, like anti-Pauline Hanson rally, and I was like, no, of course not. Like she's going to win. She's going to be the prime minister. No, she's not. No way. I'm like, this budget has handed Pauline Hanson the prime ministership of Australia. Yeah. And she's like, oh, I don't think it has. Like, I think it's, I think you've been consuming too much media. I'm like, no. I've been watching politics. Mm-hmm. The data that we've drawn and the stuff that we'll show here today and the stuff that we show almost every week is from the horse's mouth. Yeah. We watched the budget from Jim Chalmers, not a cut of it. We watched the whole thing. Yep. And we were able to derive our viewpoint on it based off exactly what they said, not someone's interpretation, not Cheek Media's interpretation, who said,
friend of the show, Cheek Media,
friend of the show, Cheek Media, who said that Pauline Hanson is just doing the bidding of Gina Rinehart. Yeah. Jason, when did Gina Rinehart start paying One Nation?
Now, this year?
Yeah.
Essentially.
How long has Pauline Hanson been having her stance?
30 years.
Well, so you don't even need first principles thinking. You just need to peel. You don't even need to peel a layer back of the onion. You just need to take the skin off, right?
Yeah.
Turn the onion on the other side to realize that is the dumb thing to say. And if you fall for that, you are a moron.
Yeah, and we covered that on the show last week, didn't we? Where we covered essentially this new narrative that has been created around One Nation. Like, literally for 30 years, all that you had to do to get people to be anti-One Nation was to say Pauline Hanson's a racist, and that worked for long enough.
Yep.
Now, too many people are actually starting to be concerned about mass migration. So talking about race is no longer effective anymore. So they've had to think of something else. So now they're like, She's owned by Gina Reinhart. She does the bidding of billionaires. And again, just to reiterate the numbers, because I had an argument with some people in Punters Politics comments about this during the week. There are so many people who are talking about, Gina Reinhart's influence over Pauline Hanson and the politics and all the money and the blah. If you believe that politicians taking money from rich people essentially makes those politicians work for the rich people and not for the constituency, then you have to be consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And I covered the numbers. In the last federal election cycle, the 2024-2025 financial year leading up to the last federal election, One Nation took in a total of $3.3 million in donations. The Greens took in $12 million. So 4 times more. The Greens took. The Labour Party took $160 million. And look, a lion's share of that comes from the unions. Do you think perhaps some of government policy under Labour is a get square with creating income for the unions? Maybe. And to make matters even worse, the LNP, Liberal National Party, took $221 million.
Yeah, what a waste of money.
But again, what I think is fascinating about narratives, and it was so funny too, because one of the comments of someone chipping back at me was someone who'd obviously jumped on our page. And I think our tagline of our page is like, applying decades of sales experience to deconstruct narratives from an Australian perspective. Like that's essentially what the show is, right?
Yep.
And their comment was, don't worry, they've been in sales for decades, so therefore they're an expert. And I was just looking at that person just thinking, if you walked into a showroom, a vehicle showroom, you would be getting your trade undervalued by $2,000. You'd be walking out full...
Jason. These guys aren't buying new cars.
Yeah.
They're brokies.
Full sticker price, full pack, the works.
Let me tell you. When you're in the comments looking at these things, you'll always notice it's the left's gripe is never about the policy. It's always about the people.
It's a motive calls to action.
100%. So it's not like what I have said to some of these people is like, explain to me how this budget is a good thing. And they can't explain it, but they feel it to be bad.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like the taglines, and I've got an example when we pivot on to the next thing. I can show you these taglines that they use that you're dumb enough to fall for.
Yeah.
The tagline should be the catalyst for you to dig a bit deeper.
Correct.
Did that really happen? Or am I being taglined?
Yeah.
Right? You've got to read past the headlines. We say it on the show. We watch the full versions of things so you don't have to. I've got a clip that I wanted to play. It's not necessarily about policy, like for Pauline Hanson's National Press Club speech, which she did a phenomenal job of. Yeah. But if you've seen any of the subsequent articles about it, all they've done is picked. She spoke for an hour.
Yeah.
They picked this thing and this thing and this thing, and that's the whole narrative now.
Yeah, those were all the clips that were cut up and were spread around, and
Yeah. So you have to be. That's why I don't argue with people in the comments, because they don't. You can't change their minds. They're idiots.
Yeah.
Right. And you can tell they're idiots because they're not talking about the policy. The fact that, like, the craziest one that I see is like when Dave Hughes goes and does something, or Simon Beard, or these successful people, Adrian Portelli, or someone that's really accomplished, comes out and says, like, this is bad because of X, Y, Z. And like, another millionaire who's whinging about it, to protect you. No. They're fine. They're going to be fine.
Yeah.
You're going to be poor.
Yeah.
You are. And they're the ones where they've got a platform to call it out. So they're trying to help you. You're too dumb to see it.
That's right.
You're too busy fighting for the system that is going to thank you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right, can we go to the press club?
Yeah.
Because I want to talk about the big thing that I've got the clip of the big thing that happened.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah. So obviously, for those of you who haven't heard about it, which I'm sure is none of you who listen to this show, Pauline Hanson addressed the National Press Club this week, and it was significant. It was the first time that she has ever been called. It is the first time a leader of not like a non-major party, and look, she is a major party now, but it's the first time a leader that wasn't of the Libs or Labor has been called to the National Press Club. It was a momentous occasion, right? It's a big deal. This is a massive shift in Australian politics. And I do want to say one thing about it, because you're going to talk about the controversy thing, and obviously there is a concern that there was a bit of, a bit of an inside job in the press club for this stunt to even happen in the first place. Like, they will talk about this, but I do want to say this one thing that I really did appreciate about that is you had, I think it was about 45 minutes was her speech, roughly, and then she took about 45 minutes worth of questions. And what I actually really appreciated about that question asking point was a journalist was called, they got to ask their question unimpeded, and Pauline was able to give her answer unimpeded. It was not a tit for tat, speak over when the person isn't going down the track that the question thought that they would take them down. It was actually and it didn't matter how ridiculous the question was, because there were some ridiculous ones. There were some constructive ones too, literally around policy and that sort of thing, which I found quite interesting. It's what journalism's supposed to be. But in that forum, they at least gave her the opportunity to answer the question unimpeded, and I did enjoy that.
So one of the attack vectors that they've used is like, oh, she hasn't really thought about her policy. And I know what they are referring to is sometimes where they said, oh, what do you think about this thing? I think it might have been the childcare. So childcare workers just got a pay rise.
Which is taxpayer funded.
Yeah. And she's like, they're like, do you support it? And she's like, no, I don't support it. And it needs a complete overhaul. There needs to be investigation into it. We've spent $20 billion on this, and we're not getting any better. They're the most underpaid people in the world. It's not working. They perceive, so they're like, oh, so you don't support it. And then that became she doesn't have a policy for it because she says
they basically said to her, what would you do with the system? And she said, I'm not going to make policy on the fly here, but it's something that we need to look into, which again, to me, is the best way to answer that question. And I'll put it in another context for you, because we were talking about doctors before. The number one worst thing for me when you go to a doctor's office is when you tell them about what your symptoms are or whatever, and they give you this blank look, like they don't have a clue what you're talking about. And then they go, here's a prescription for this. Try this. Whereas I had an experience years ago when I was a young man, went to a doctor, and I explained my symptoms and whatever. And he goes, give me a sec. Picks up a book off his bookshelf, reads through it, and he's like, I think that lines up with this, right? He didn't know the answer, so he went and did the research. I trusted that guy.
Yep.
I don't trust someone who just comes up with bullshit off the cuff.
Now, from someone who does know how an economy works, and someone who is a student of history, and someone who has compared other countries' performance economically and historically against others, and draws upon certain data to make conclusions about the way that we should do things. And
I think that's called right-wing extremism, Alex.
Yeah. I agreed with almost everything that she said. Okay. But I want to show this. This is a part, and again, it's the hot topic that everyone's talking about. And the reason why I want to show it is because the aspect that I'm going to bring to it probably hasn't been talked about enough. Cool. So I'm going to show the clip where Get Up, this far left organization, has essentially infiltrated, and they played a prank on it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll play the clip.
I need help just to get by. Thousands of Australians are seeking this help every day. Organisations like the Salvos are
so people that are just listening, whilst she's speaking, you can see this yellow banner, an automatic banner coming down to her left. Sorry, to her right, to our left.
Yeah.
Overwhelmed with demand, they're having to turn people away. Of the 4,400 people surveyed, 19% said they'd eaten food from a rubbish bin in the past 12 months.
So obviously there's now like a bit of a commotion out there. She
Yeah.
can sort of sense that there's a commotion. So she looks at it, reads it, laughs. She
Yeah.
smiles. She smiles. Ready? Oh, this is weird.
No. That's not weird. Did you pick this
cut
up
this.
live? They cut the
Yes.
audio?
Yes.
Yep, because it's like they were expecting her to say something perhaps unhinged about the thing.
Interesting. And then there's a bigger cut.
Yeah.
Expired or spoiled food. 91% said they had skipped meals and
Okay, I don't have the other cut saved, but okay, what the reason why I want to show this is, dude, she's a hard bitch.
Yeah.
She's been sent to prison wrongfully.
Yep.
Over her politics. She, like I said, she said the same thing for 30 years. This prank is clearly coordinated.
Correct.
Reason why I say it's coordinated, how can you... Oh, and by the way, it's a good one. Get Up did a great job to go and get their message across. They did. It was a masterful stroke. They've been able to infiltrate that place.
Mm-hmm.
They're able to use the technology there to put their poster up in an automatic thing, and there's some guy there with a remote who could click the remote at a particular time.
You know who that guy was?
Yeah, he's the Brittany Higgins.
It's Brittany Higgins' ex-boyfriend, David Shiraz, who's...
Yeah.
I don't know if he runs Get Up or if he's just big in Get Up, but it was him, that fat loser. Yeah.
Now, the fact that she didn't flinch, I think is like, she is hard as nails, dude.
Yeah.
And subsequently, so the picture of it is her with like these glasses that have been put on, like sort of superimposed on top, and said, was it one?
I opposed a pay rise for workers while I took $100,000 pay increase.
Yeah. So what's Pauline done since that she grabbed the picture of it and she's made it her profile picture because she goes, I actually quite like the glasses. Thanks, Get Up.
It's gangster.
It's so gangster.
This is exactly like when Donald Trump sold T-shirts with his mugshot on it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's the exact same attitude. But again, all right, this is where I'm glad that you brought this up because there are elements to this which I find super interesting that no one's talking about. Like you said, she looked at it, she smiled and acknowledged it, and she kept on rolling like a professional. Can you imagine if that was, say, Katie Gallagher making a speech, and then someone did that? We would be hearing about this as a misogynistic... I mean, look at the Jacinta Allen thing, right? Ditch the Witch billboards down in Victoria.
Sorry, can we pause for 2 seconds?
Yeah. All right, we're back. So yeah, look at the Jacinta Allen Ditch the Witch billboard, that was driven around Melbourne. That was a billboard put up by a private citizen, and it turned into a national conversation around misogyny in politics and how people bully women and blah blah blah. And the Prime Minister put posts up saying that misogyny against women in public life is unacceptable, and it became a national conversation.
Yeah.
And it's from a dude who owns a brothel in Melbourne who's pissed off. It's not affiliated with any political party.
Yeah.
Right? He's
given more women jobs than anyone.
Yeah, exactly. Right? He's had enough. So he did a billboard, became a national conversation around bullying women in politics. And yet, Pauline has this happen to her. This is her moment, right? This is the mainstreaming of One Nation as a political party within the establishment, because the National Press Club is part of the establishment. Her speaking basically instilled her as a major threat in the political landscape from the establishment's perspective. The people have known it for a long time, but from the establishment, this was her moment. This banner comes down. There's no conversation. Albo's not putting up a tweet saying that this is disgusting and should be condemned. There's none of that. There's no support. But what did she do? She took the picture of herself, going like this, with the glasses on, made it a profile picture, and I guarantee you she'll start selling merch as well. She took it like a gangster.
Dude.
And if you think, after everything she's been through over the last 30 years, that was going to hurt her feelings, you got no idea. Absolutely no idea. It was gangster. I appreciate it.
It was gangster. I really liked it. I agree with what you said about during the question time. She handled the questions really well. She did lash out because a great technique is, and I think this is absolutely pathetic, right? And this happens on both sides of politics. So like, it's not a left necessarily a left thing. But let's say if your media, like your publication, has a hard and fast stance on a particular thing, we have to hate one nation.
Yeah.
You can't ask a normal question because she's going to give you a normal answer and you're not going to get a story.
That's right.
And you're not going to appease your indoctrinated.
Because it's not about journalism, it's about activism.
Yeah. So, and I can't, you'll remember what the question was, but it was something dumb like, what was,
There were two in particular that I
remember. The daughter getting the job?
One was about her daughter getting a job, and they were basically trying to ask if her and Gina Reinhart had anything to do with it, and essentially were accusing her of nepotism. And I thought she handled it pretty well, where she ridiculed the journalist at the beginning, but pretty much went Trump style and called it fake news, which is great.
Yeah.
And again, like
she brought receipts. She's like, you've written 48 articles about me, all negative.
Yeah, it was 28 articles about One Nation, they were all negative. And this is a thing too that like people don't like it in politics, but this is what you guys need to understand. That is healthy. Like these get for an example, that other thing that happened about a week ago, which was when she was in the airport and that young blonde female journalist came up to her and asked her some snooty bullshit question, and she basically owned this girl, right? Wrecked her. And a lot of people like, oh, I can't believe she would speak to this like young lady like that. No. If you approach someone in political life with that much like disrespect, expect to receive the disrespect in return.
If you come at the Queen, you better make it a good one.
Yeah, you better not miss.
One shot.
But again, like, yes, the journalist's job is to hold people in power to account. That's what they're supposed to do. So you can fire off those questions if you want to. That's fine. But don't expect some fluffy, cordial answer that you're then going to twist to make it look like you owned Pauline Hanson. It's not how it's supposed to be. If you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
Yeah, so I was very impressed with her. I think she did a great job. Look, there's still some things that I wish she was a little more articulate.
Yeah, I agree. She did a lot better than I expected, to be fair.
Yeah, she's definitely got a lot better. She knows the numbers, which is what I really like. That was another attack vector that mostly the ABC and SBS people, because she told an SBS lady, you're going to lose your job. I know why you're pissed off. Like, you're going to lose your job, right?
Because she wants to get rid of the SBS.
Yeah.
I thought that exchange was great too.
Oh, okay. So that was a hilarious one. She's like, SBS provides Australian stories in 68 different languages. And how are we going to, you want people to integrate, but how are we going to integrate them if they're not hearing it in their own language? And she's like, I want them to learn English.
Yeah.
I want it to be part of their citizenship. And you're not going to have a job.
And then followed it up with, and if they knew how to speak English, perhaps it would make it easier for them to get a job and contribute. It was really, really well handled. But again, to like you said, she knew the numbers. That's very impressive. That's very important. It wasn't, who was the politician a while ago, a few years ago, you might remember this, who didn't know what the GST percentage was? Was that Palaszczuk?
Ooh, I don't remember.
Okay. It was someone who should have fucking known. Put it that way, right?
Yeah.
Everyone knows that the GST is 10%. But this happened recently too with the new leader of the Libs, Angus Taylor. Did you hear about this story?
No.
He was asked what seat he was running in, and he didn't fucking know.
Oh, no, dude.
So again, if you want to pretend that you care about your constituents and you don't even know what seat you're in, that's what we call a moment of truth, and he failed. Whereas
here we go. Let's do this live on the show. This we did not discuss this, but what could possibly go wrong? I've just pulled up cheap media. All right.
News that talks back. You go, girlfriend.
Okay, so at the bottom here. Oh, by the way,
go up to how you can support cheap media.
Hold on. Buy a vibrator. Fuck the patriarchy with cheek. Empower yourself and fuck the patriarchy with a beginner vibrator and a conversation game that prioritizes your pleasure. I designed the cheek kit with the experts from Normal so you can have the sex you actually want. With a robot. and it was probably made by Chinese sweatshop workers,
And
who are probably men.
Can I also point out the blatant hypocrisy in Western liberal women, who run cheek media? One of their number one go-to insults for men they don't like is they call them incels, and they tell them that no one wants to fuck them.
Yeah.
Right? And now they're selling vibrators. Oh, so you can have the sex that you want, which is not with a human being. Is that because you're an incel?
So I'll see if I can click these. I'm not 100% sure if it'll work. Okay, so Pauline Hanson's National Press Club address yesterday was filled with claims. We fact-checked a few. So, we're going in this raw dogging. We don't know. We don't know. So let's see if we can come up to the great and powerful cheek media.
Let's see if we can read between the cheeks.
23% speak a language other than English at home, the most common being Mandarin and Arabic. The way the statistic is presented is misleading. According to the ABS data from 2021 census, a non-English language was used in 24.8% of households. This does not... Okay, so it's lower. Sorry, the actual number's higher. All right.
Yeah.
This does not mean it is used always, or even that it is used by every member of the household. It does not mean that household members cannot speak English. While Mandarin and Arabic are the top languages other than English, they're only spoken at home by a respective 2.7 and 1.4% of people, just marginally ahead of the top 10 languages, including Vietnamese, Cantonese, Punjabi, Greek, Italian, Filipino, Tagalog, Hindi, and Spanish. I don't know how that contradicts her claim.
Yeah.
Right.
Well.
If anything, she's just proved that she underreported the number, not overreported.
Yeah.
Okay. Of the 4,400 surveyed, 19% said they'd eaten food from a rubbish bin in the past 12 months. Now, I did have some reservations about this comment too, because I was surprised, where do they get this info from? So I did feel this too. So let's see what they said. Here, Pauline Hanson is referring to a Salvation Army survey as evidence of Australians experiencing high rates of poverty. She places this with her argument against immigration. However, the missing context of this data is that the Salvation Army was surveying Australians seeking emergency relief support. This is a distressing statistic, but is not representative of the entire population, drawing a false correlation between the economic hardship of Australians living in poverty and immigration as misinformation. 50-50, don't care. Okay.
Well, hold on. If any Australians are having to eat rubbish out of a bin, we should be prioritising those Australians.
Good point. Net zero hoax. Pauline Hanson spent I know that we're going to win this one. I just know. Pauline Hanson spent a lot of time denying climate science and rejecting the need for renewable in her address. Hanson is right on one thing: energy prices are up. That's not the fault of solar and batteries. It's because of fluctuating international gas price and the high cost of keeping rapidly aging coal-fired power stations running. Funnily enough, Hanson also voted against a 25% gas export tax that would see Australians get a fair return on the resource and make domestic gas prices more competitive. Sorry, can you explain to me how charging gas more money makes it cheaper?
Yeah, so international gas prices are higher. So if we make gas prices higher, that will make our energy cheaper.
Yeah, okay, so that's dumb. The cheapest and most reliable solution is investing in renewables and storage. According to the CSIRO, hold on, I need to finish it.
Okay.
According to the CSIRO reports, if Australia's grid was powered by 82% renewable energy, it would be a third cheaper than current wholesale electricity costs. Again, that's that tricky thing they use, the generation cost, not the total cost of building the infrastructure. Now, in her speech, she said, put as many solar panels up on the roof. I don't care. But she said no wind turbines anywhere and no solar panels on agricultural land. That is not a crazy take.
No. And I also, again, if you want to actually talk about the CSIRO reports, that Gen Cost report literally says the only way we get to their renewables target is if we take, it's something like, what was the number? I don't want to quote the number. I just want to say it was a significant number. It was above 40%, put it that way, of agricultural land for solar and wind farm usage. Plus, the other part of it that they don't talk about is the fact that they are banking on having a very high percentage of the nation who has rooftop solar have batteries that will then be discharged into the grid at nighttime. So all of you people who've been like, oh, I'm going to take the the solar battery rebate to install a battery in my house, what you don't realize is that you will not be able to use all of the power in that battery. If it is required overnight, the power company will be able to discharge your battery back into the grid.
We've read it on the show with the new contracts. Even if you have solar with no batteries, they have the right to deploy your energy somewhere else,
Correct.
which I'm actually okay for. But just so you know, lefties, you don't like the pay divide. This policy, your renewables policy, only benefits the rich because it's for householders like homeowners. You're not going to get that.
It's for people wealthy enough to own their own home and also have the extra money to invest in a solar battery. So it's middle to upper class welfare.
I just talked to a bloke that has just put a solar system and batteries, 40 grand.
Yeah.
You got 40 grand?
Now, I want to make a quick comment on the gas thing, because this is a thing that's been left out of this conversation many, many times too. So we've got a thing called the PRRT, the Petroleum Rent Resource Tax. The way that scheme works, and this is where even guys like David Pocock have been a little bit disingenuous with the figures. At the moment, we are getting bugger all PRRT from some of these offshore gas operations, right? Mm-hmm. The reason is that those offshore gas rigs cost billions of dollars to set up. It's like $40 billion or something like that. Mm-hmm. So the way the PRRT system works is they allow these gas companies...
Jason, that's only 1 month of government spending.
True. But they allow these gas companies to recoup the cost of their investment in the infrastructure first before then having to pay the PRRT. Yep. So until they've recouped that $40 billion it costs to build that infrastructure, they don't have to pay anything. But once they've done that, they then have to start paying. And the reason why that is fair, in my opinion, is once that gas reserve is gone, it's not like they're setting up a business, for example, that runs forever, right? So you pay for the infrastructure up front, you pay for the whatever it's manufacturing or whatever, and you can run that thing forever. It's not the same. Once that gas resource is gone and depleted, you have to pull that thing down, and there's nothing else there.
There is one slight change. Jared Rennick talks about it all the time. The one issue that you have with the tax system that is something that he would change, which I agree with, is they are able to re-index the cost of that build every year, which I don't think is right. So essentially, what you should let's just use round numbers. Let's say it's $100 billion to build it. The first $100 billion of income that you make should be tax-free. Mm-hmm. But what they are able to do is because they index it every time you inflate that economy, that 100 is now 110 or 120. So that is something that we can do. But adding a 25% tax to it and thinking that it's going to be cheaper is moronic.
Yeah, exactly. Right, continue on.
Transgender movement is a militant force. ABS data tells us that 1% of the Australian population are trans or gender diverse. This small community of Australians are more likely to be the victim of crimes and are less likely to be the perpetrators of crime. This is not a militant force, as Hanson suggests, but a minority group that Australians overwhelmingly support having equal rights and protections. Polling conducted by Redbridge Group for the Equality Australia last year found that 91% of Australians agree that trans people should have the freedom and choice to live their lives in a way that makes them happy. Hanson's rhetoric does not represent who we are as a nation. It is extremist.
May I comment on this?
Yes.
She's not claiming that trans people individually are a militant force. She is claiming that trans propaganda is being forced on children and creating more trans people via manipulation. That is what she's running against.
Flag is flying on the top of the uni.
And let me give you an example too of how this is a militant force. This came up in the rugby league circles during the week, so you wouldn't know about this because you're a new fan to the game. But former Wallaby international Broncos player Israel Folau was supposed to make his return to the NRL this year. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, Israel Folau is a devout religious man. I think he's either Christian or Mormon, one of the two. Very devoutly religious and goes along with those beliefs pretty closely. So he is homophobic, I would say. And a few years ago, he got essentially kicked out of the league, or I think he was supposed to make his return from rugby union, and it got canned because he had put a homophobic tweet up. Right?
Haven't we all?
Haven't we all?
Hey, I haven't just put homophobic tweets up. I put sexist, misogynist.
Yeah. I hate everyone just
racist.
the same.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this week he essentially got reached out to by the West Tigers. The West Tigers were saying, hey, we got a spot. We'd love to have you come back to the league. It was almost a done and dusted deal. And then at the last minute, a guy called Wayne Pierce basically kiboshed it. And the reason why they kiboshed his return was due to inclusivity. So in other words, to have inclusion, they have excluded Israel Folau.
Yeah.
Now, this is where you
That's
see...
me. That's me.
Yeah, right? This is kind of leftism 101, right? It is, we want diversity, but not diversity of thought. As soon as you think something different to us, you will be removed from society. Yeah. And here's the thing with the NRL, which is why this is so ironic. So again, just putting all the cards on the table. I'm not a religious man. I've got gay friends. I voted for gay marriage, right? I voted for it. Israel Folau is as clean as a whistle off the field as any football player in history. Yep. He has never stepped out of line. He does not drink. He does not do drugs. All it is he goes with his religious faith and he adheres to it, and he believes that other people would benefit from that too. And for that crime, he's excluded from earning an income from the NRL when the West Tigers approached him about playing for the team.
Would he ever play for the Perth Bears?
Oh, I would say not. But on the flip side, the NRL has a long history of allowing players back into the game who have committed atrocious crimes. Like Russell Packer was one of the best examples. Literally curb stomped a guy and went to prison. They allowed him back into the game. Ezra Mam, it happened in the off-season where he was unlicensed, driving under the influence, had a car accident which put a pregnant woman in hospital, and he was allowed back into the game. But we've got a guy who is a devout Christian man, for example, and we've excluded him from the game based on his beliefs. So therefore, that pressure comes from the militant LGBTIQA plus community. And also, there is a militant element when every single weekend there's protests where you're marching and you've got their flag, you've got the Palestinian flag, you've got people saying death to Australia. Like, you cannot claim that there aren't elements to that movement which are militant.
What do you do? What does the military do when they take a territory?
Yeah, they put their flag down.
They take their flag.
Because they've conquered it.
Yep.
And again, also, the other thing too, I just want to say about the trans thing. We all know trans people like disproportionately going to be victims of crimes. A lot of those things are sex crimes because a lot of them end up being sex workers. We do know that they commit suicide at a much higher rate than the general population. All of these different things. So again, as someone who apparently cares about people, why would you want to make more trans people?
Yeah. Now, I want to defend, there are a cohort that are trans, well, and they can do, when they're 18 years old, you can go and do whatever you want. Okay. But I agree with Jason, is we should think very critically about indoctrinating kids into something that is categorically bad for them.
It may harm them.
Yeah. Okay, next one. When I see that kind of money being put into childcare, I think we need to have an investigation. You know, we've spoken about this, but let's see what Cheek Media has to say about it. Pauline Hanson attacked the $16.9 billion cost of the Australian government's childcare subsidy. Hanson threw out this figure with no context and raised that it needs to be an investigation. This investment guarantees every child is eligible for at least 3 days of care per week and expands care access and services in underrepresented communities. While the privatised, costly childcare system deserves criticism, needs reform, where Hanson lays blame is wrong. If Hanson claims to be an Australian for the Australian workers' economic development and productivity, that means supporting parents to return to work instead of shaming childcare workers for wanting to be paid a fair wage. That is not a response to what she said.
No, it's not. And it's a fundamental misunderstanding of, well, it's either fundamental or it is by choice a misunderstanding of not only the words that were said, but also the realities of life. So again, let's throw this out there, right? You want to claim that you're for workers and for the regular Australian citizen. We're spending $16.9 billion on childcare. Now, I've said this on the show many times over the years because my kids have been through this childcare system when we've received the childcare subsidy. Every single time the government puts a subsidy up, we get an email from the childcare centre saying they've reviewed their costs and they'll be increasing fees. So all we're doing is we are creating far more profit for these childcare centres who, with that additional profit, could choose to pay their workers a higher wage, but they choose not to, right? That is a private business maximising their own profits. Now, if we took some of that $16.9 billion, there are other options that you can do for it to take the strain off the childcare system. The number one option for me is to give that money directly to the parent. So either maybe mum or dad might want to stay home and raise their own child. What a crazy concept. Why can't that parent receive the same financial support to raise their own child as that child would receive or would give to a childcare centre when you hand them over? The other thing too,
Pauline Hanson has that policy.
Yeah, she
Pauline
does.
Hanson has a policy about income splitting
Yep.
for households with families, right? And that this is a genius move. This is something I hadn't even thought of. But when it's interesting. The way our tax system works, if you are a household and you both work, you have to put your wage together and you're taxed at the highest marginal tax rate.
Mm-hmm.
However, if one person doesn't work, you get there's no incentive. You don't minus the cost like you would if you're a business, right? You could minus the cost of the unproductive person,
Mm-hmm.
add that as a cost to your business, and only pay a tax on what is left. The government only takes the upside; they take none of the downside.
Correct.
Pauline Hanson has said, "Let's split your income. So if someone's on 200 and someone's on 50, we're going to split it in half, and you'll pay tax on that number."
Yeah, so it'll be
super fair.
Yeah, so if it's 250, it'll be 250 divided by 2. So both people will be taxed as if they earn $125,000, which puts them in a lower tax bracket than one person earning 200 who will pay far more. It is a fairer way to do it, right?
Yep.
But again, this is, unfortunately, this is Marxism, this is leftism. We've cut on the show many times before. The state wants to raise your children for you so they can indoctrinate them into their way of thinking. So they can bring Marxism and communist ideology to a very early age. And that might sound like it's hyperbolic. It's not. I've had conversations with the childcare workers at one of the childcares that my kids used to go to who told us it was government policy for them to have trans paraphernalia like freely visible in the classroom, and if they did not, they could lose their childcare subsidy funding. You cannot claim that this is not a push and a propaganda and a manipulation of young children if they're literally saying, we will remove your funding unless you put trans paraphernalia in your classrooms.
But I want to go back. This is the thing I love about cheap media the most, is that and where people who follow this, like you use 2 brain cells instead of just one. Use 2, which is we have to have an investigation.
Yep.
To deserves criticism and needs reform. You agree. You are agreeing, but the way you've sent this message out is you disagree with what she said, even though in your own text you agree with her.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. Dude, our good cheap media can fill our show. It is a treasure trove, right? Okay, the average Australian out there wants to leave the UN. This refers to One Nation's promise to withdraw.
Can I just make one comment, sorry, before you continue?
Sure.
I just did a quick check because I was pretty sure that Hannah Ferguson, so that lady in all those pictures, Hannah Ferguson, that is the journalist who I think runs Cheek Media. And I just searched, so like, who runs Cheek Media and how many children do they have?
Is she a she, her?
I don't know. I do not care. I don't partake in that in pronouns. So essentially, it appears that Ferguson, together with her co-founder Kristen Perissinotto, although reports suggest that Ferguson is now the sole owner of the business, and she currently has no children. So again, you got these childless Western liberal ladies talking about childcare. I guarantee you, if she had kids and she had to experience a system, her thoughts on it would change.
Yeah. Okay. This refers to one nation's promise to withdraw from the international agreements and organisations such as the United Nations, World Health Organization, the Paris Agreement, under the guise of saving Australia's up to $1 billion each year. It will make Australia the only country besides observer states, Palestine and Taiwan, to leave the global intergovernmental organisation. When questioned on the potential catastrophic fallout of such a move, Hanson insists that average Aussies back it, though there is no data suggesting that this is the case. In fact, a global study published by Pew Research in late 2025 found Australian perceptions of the UN had improved 4 points since 2024, with 63% of Australians now holding a favourable view of the UN. This puts us above the median, 61% score, of the 25 other countries surveyed. Hey, Jason, what does the UN do for us?
Nothing. They enforce globalist policy on us.
Hey, Jason, who pays for the UN?
We do.
Well, who pays the most?
It'd be the US, wouldn't it?
And who's no longer in the UN?
I think they're still in.
Yeah,
I think there was talks about removing from it. But again, okay, this is the money thing, right? The UN is the primary... the US is the primary funder of the UN. Donald Trump does not like what the UN is doing. Therefore, he is threatening to withdraw his funding and support for the UN to bend them to his will, just like he did with the World Health Organization. It's the same thing. But you're right. Like, okay, here's the thing. We talk about the United Nations, right? Oh, like, and when people think United Nations, it sounds all great. Oh, we're peaceful. We're all united. How united's the world? What has the UN done to create wealth and prosperity for the entire world? Nothing.
What has the UN done for your plight in Israel and Palestine?
Nothing.
What has the UN done for Russia, Ukraine?
You hold no power here.
Yeah, right? They've done nothing.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be the United Nations.
Yeah.
They haven't done dick.
No.
Rip it out. Rip it out. I'm with it. Okay, Western civilization and its values are under siege. One of the many alarmist statements made by Hanson during her speech, this line preceded Islamophobic rant in which she described radical Islam as a social cancer. By carefully couching her Islamophobia in criticism of radical elements of the religion, she gives herself plausible deniability. However, her record, including comments that there are no good Muslims, reveals Hanson's opposition to Islam goes beyond radical elements. Terms like Western values and Judeo-Christian values, the later popularized by Trump, also appeared in Hanson's speech.
What? Popularized by Trump?
Yeah.
The term Judeo-Christian values?
I think it's 2,000 years old. Are dog whistles associated with nationalistic and white supremacist agendas. It implies that Western or Anglo values and belief systems are inherently superior to others. Besides the blatant racism and xenophobia, this assumption also disregards the fact that national values are difficult to define and constantly evolving. Well, they're not, though, if you don't do it. It's very easy to define. And I agree with Pauline Hanson. What was the last terrorist attack? Was that a...
It was Islamic extremists killing Jews in Australia.
Largest shooting since Port Arthur?
Yep, correct.
Okay, so was that us?
Nope.
Do we go around doing that? Do white supremacists go around doing that?
Nope.
Funny that's strange. Okay. Now, has she said that stuff in the past? Yeah. She
Can I clarify the no good Muslims comment?
Yes, please.
Because she's right. When it comes to Australian society, her comment of there is no such thing as a good Muslim, which has been taken out of context a million times, is actually accurate in the way that it was described. And what she means is this. If you are Muslim, a devout Muslim who follows Sharia law, there are elements to Sharia law which do not they do not belong in Western society and particularly in Australia, i.e. things like they will kill you if you're homosexual, or, women have to wear the burqa and men can take multiple wives and women have no rights and all those sorts of things, right? So in other words, if you're a Muslim living in Australia and you are a devout follower of the Islamic faith and Sharia law, then you are not a good person to have in Australia because your values do not align with ours.
Yeah.
On the flip side, if you are a Muslim who lives in Australia who subscribes to those elements of Australian and Western values, you're not, quote unquote, a good Muslim in the eyes of the Muslim faith because you are breaking certain tenets of that faith. That's what she meant.
Yeah, and that's true. Like, and it's funny because people that are, she would fight for female rights. You don't have them.
She's the
if
only
you're a
person
good Muslim.
fighting for female rights. She's the only person, like her party is the only party that goes into parliament and says women deserve to have female-only spaces and safety, and trying to draw the distinct biological reality of what a woman is back into Australian law. She's the only person fighting for women.
The missed opportunity I had this morning, because I did say that I'd voted for Pauline Hanson for the last 10 years. And I should have said, and it's one of those, oh man, I wish I would have, I thought about it.
Yeah.
I just believe in a strong woman, leader. I don't want a rich white straight guy leading our country. Like, call me progressive. I don't know. Like,
but don't you find that as the ultimate irony, dude? Like when people who hate Pauline Hanson talk about One Nation supporters, one of the first words they pull out is you got straight white male misogynists. We're the only ones backing the chick. We want a chick to run the country.
It's so crazy, man. So I'll shout out to our friends, Cheek Media, endless source of absolute hilarity. And again, people that are following this, you need help. You actually need help. And not only we shouldn't be able to pick apart the contradictions in their own text without you realizing that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like from it's like the most straightforward thing you could ever think of. You were speaking to a person who would say one thing at the start of the sentence and then flip it. You'd go, wait a minute, what is your stance? Like,
yeah,
which one is it?
I want to be charitable to Hannah Ferguson and to Cheek Media. She's like 26 years old.
Yeah.
If we had the show when we were 26, we would have said some dumbass shit too. Because you just don't have, you think you've got life experience and you don't. You don't even know what you don't know at that point in time in your life. I didn't either. I was probably dumber than she is right now when I was 26, okay? Yeah. You just turned 40. I'm about to turn 38. We have been on this planet like 1.5 times longer than she has. We have seen more things. We've experienced more things. And with that comes a degree of wisdom that you just don't have when you're a kid. Yep. Now, I will also say too, she's grown up in a time when women have been so protected from criticism. I think this is kind of part of the problem, right? Like, for ladies who are listening to the show, you might hate this, you might think it's misogynist, whatever. I can tell you right now, as a man, when you grow up and you turn from a boy to a teenage boy, you learn very quickly that the world doesn't actually care about you. They care about what you can do for the world, right? It is a very difficult thing to be a young, like a teenaged male or even an 18-year-old man, because, the law looks at you as a man. You're not a man. Most 18-year-old men are little boys, right? And then they get out into the marketplace and maybe they want to date girls their own age, for example, and then they realize that they're still living at home, no job, no career, shitty car, and the 18-year-old girls that they're trying to date are talking to 25 to 30-year-old guys who've got their own house, they've got careers, they've got cars, they've been to the gym, they're physically built, right? It's a very difficult place to be for young men. But on the flip side, and I will say Hannah Ferguson, she is a physically attractive girl, right? She's a pretty girl. The world gives a lot of grace to young, attractive women. It always has, and it always will.
Yep.
I guarantee you, she has had men around her during her life where she has repeated some of these things, and they've just gone along with it because they thought that it might get them somewhere, right? But there will come a point in her life.
Yeah, babe, I totally agree. For smash the patriarchy, babe. I'm so with you. The flotilla. Yeah, I'm all for the flotilla.
And look, just as the blatant example, I think that if you asked her, who do you think is a better influence on Australian society? Straight, white Australian men or immigrant men from third world countries? She would say it's the immigrants, and she would rattle off all the problems with the straight white men, and she would rattle off all of the positive things that immigrant men bring, and she would, like, all of the nuance would be removed from it. And what she fails to understand is the only reason why she lives in a relatively safe society where she can stand up and say these things and have a public forum and an audience is because of the straight white men who allowed it to happen. Because if go and do this in Palestine, go and do this in Afghanistan, good luck.
Yeah.
Right? You can't do these things over there. You can do them here. So it is that whole thing of like, you know, I bring it up all the time. We talk about the voice to Parliament. The closer to the middle of a capital city you lived, in other words, the further away you lived from the realities of Indigenous life in Australia, the more likely you were to vote for the voice.
Yeah.
Like, she is so far removed from the negative side effects of her decision making and her ideas that, like, no wonder why she holds these ideas. But it takes.
Yeah, it's not surprising.
It's
100%.
not surprising.
I agree with that. It's definitely not surprising. But
Yeah.
I think everyone should be a critical thinker, and I was accused today of consuming too much right wing media, but here we are on the most far left media site.
We're not on One Nation's website.
Well, no, but I would argue that we do go to the actual source. Like,
Yeah, we do.
We watched the whole budget. We
Yeah.
watched the whole Pauline Hanson thing.
Yep.
We consume the whole thing, and we're deriving our thoughts from that. We're not just like, we haven't just got Sky News on repeat or whatever. You know, we're trying to go to the direct source. We're trying not to fall for the headlights. The headlines.
Sky News sucks.
Yeah, they suck, man.
Yeah.
They suck. But this is what this show was about. We deconstruct media narratives.
That's right.
We deconstruct it. And this is a narrative. It's all narrative based. And look, we have a narrative too. So I get it. But what we try to bring to our narrative is reality, ontological truth.
Yeah.
We have illustrated there, not through woo, not through ideology, but through like the facts or even like the etymology of the words that they're using.
Yeah.
We're using their own words and telling you what they really think, right? Yeah. But they know that people aren't going to go that far.
No.
They know they know it. Now, I think she's a true believer.
I agree.
And what I would love, especially young women, I want you to do better. I want you to embrace the opportunity you have to build a great nation and to build a great place for you and your family and your community, right? I want you to have all the things that you want. But feeling good about the thing, even though the output is bad, is bad.
Yeah.
Just because it feels good to say it. I heard it put this way, and I love it. Being a leftist is politics on training wheels. Right. It's the easiest ideology to support because you're saying good things.
Yeah.
And as long as you keep saying those good things, it doesn't matter if what comes out of it is terrible, because you want more of it. I want more good things to happen. I want them to have money. I want them to come in. I want everyone to have free stuff. I want, no one's going to argue with that. What is bold and what does require bravery is what Pauline Hanson has been doing her entire fucking career. Yeah. Which is say, that's not reality. I'm going to say the thing that is unpopular, but is actually good and is going to get the outcomes that you guys want.
Yeah. And
the world that you actually want is not going to be built the way that you think it needs to be built.
Because it's not building anything; it's giving everything.
Yeah,
and you can only give from a place of strength because of the people who came before who built the thing in the first place.
Read an economics book. Read a book on human nature. Read one history book. Read 3 books, and that'll give you a basis, a foundational knowledge that you'll be able to extrapolate what these policies are actually going to do for the world. Yeah. Okay? That's all you have to do. Because there's no, we've used examples of the childcare subsidy today. We know, and we've brought up the graph in the past, any system that has government intervention is on the price over time is on a race to infinity. every item that is devoid of any government interaction whatsoever is on a race to zero.
That's right.
TVs versus childcare. Okay,
Yeah.
childcare's only going up. Now, I just saw an 80-inch TV at Aldi for $350.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. Come on. So read one economics book. Read one history book. Go and look at a country that has done the things that you want to happen and see what happened to them.
Yeah.
Okay. It's funny. I bring some. I get it. People think these ideas I bring to the table are crazy, but I'm citing the examples that are currently happening outside of our country
And that have happened before.
that have happened before.
Yeah.
It's not a new concept. I'm grabbing a piece of data from somewhere else and saying, hey, what if we did that thing here that proved to do X, Y, and Z?
Mm.
Okay. You don't have a basis. So what did I say? I said economics, history. Yeah. And then just some relative, have an understanding of what other people are doing, what other things are successful.
But I also want to say too, and I want to make the point, and again, like, this is one of those things which you get called a misogynist for talking about, but there is a change that people go through. It's not just women, men do it too, when you have kids. And you realize it's like the absolute basics, right? So if you talk about society in the same way you talk about raising kids, if you have a kid, the kid will come to you every single day and go, Dad, I want to eat donuts.
Yeah.
And you go, sorry, mate, you can't have donuts for breakfast. It's not good for you to have a donut. But if you do the right things, maybe you'll get a donut later. And they will kick and they will scream and they will cry. And you go, mate, one day you'll get it. One day you'll understand, right? I'm helping you by feeding you healthy food, healthy body, healthy mind. You'll grow up far stronger and you'll have a better life because Dad didn't give you the donut just because you cried when I didn't give you the donut. Now you can apply that to society. And the problem is leftism is all about people going to someone else saying, give me a donut.
Yeah.
And demanding that the system gives them a donut. And demanding that not only gives them a donut, but gives all their friends a donut too. You got to give my friends a donut as well. And then the problem is you get to a point where you go, okay, well, who's going to make the donut? I'm not making the donut. I don't know how to make the donut. I've never learned how to make the donut. Yeah. But I want everyone to have the donuts, right? Yeah. And again, this is one of these things that when you become a parent, you understand this stuff. When you become a parent, you understand how important things like safety are, right? So I'm a fairly large, used to be athletic before I became a semi-crippled man. I've never had a problem in life with thinking that I'm unsafe. I've been put in some very unsafe positions in my life. Sure. I've been attacked in the street. I have been able to defend myself and have been relatively fine out of that. I know what it must feel like to be a woman walking at nighttime through shitty areas, drunk guys. You know, men are dangerous, right? We absolutely are dangerous. I want people to be safer. I don't have an expectation that everyone will be safe at all times. It is impossible. We can only create safety via people educating themselves, but also, at the end of the day, it all comes down to culture. There is a reason why mono-ethnic societies tend to be more high-trust societies. You know, everyone wants to talk about how progressive, like, the Scandinavian countries are. Like, oh, Sweden, they're so progressive. Yeah, because they're majority white. They all look the same. They all trust each other, right? They come from the same lineage. They buy into the same...
Swedish culture.
Swedish culture.
They have a culture.
Yeah, that's right. They buy into it. And the problem is, the reason why things like multiculturalism become a problem is because if you keep inviting every single culture into your country, into the one area, there will inevitably be cultures that do not align and then conflicts occur. And like, this is what I find so interesting about the whole, they call it like the Red-Green Alliance, you know, where you've got communists who are bringing in like Middle Eastern terrorists, right? The whole like Queers for Palestine thing is where you just go, that's two different ideologies, which it sounds great to say, I'm a queer person and I support the Palestinians. That sounds nice. But in reality, you can only say that because you're in a safe country that will protect you from having those values. If you go there, they'll throw you off a building. right?
Yeah.
It is, you have to look at the world through a rational lens. You cannot look at the world through this utopian idea of I'm a nice person and I'm nice to everyone, and therefore everyone will be nice to me. Because that's not how the world works.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And on that note,
let's leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. It's better to be dead than red. See you all next week.